My name is Patsy, and at 59 years old, I've built a successful hospitality business from nothing. What I never built was a close relationship with my daughter Amanda. When I discovered she was planning a luxury vacation at one of my resorts while deliberately excluding me, I was heartbroken. The worst part, she had absolutely no idea I owned the place. I never expected to be sitting in my office watching security approach my own daughter at my request. Before I tell you what happened when hotel security asked my daughter to leave, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt excluded by a family member. I started my career in hospitality at the very bottom. As a 19-year-old single mother with no college education, I took the only job I could find, cleaning rooms at a budget motel on the outskirts of Portland. The hours were long, the pay was minimal, and the work was physically demanding. I would come home with aching feet and back my hands red and raw from harsh cleaning chemicals to my tiny one-bedroom apartment where baby Amanda waited with my elderly neighbor who watched her while I worked. Those early years were a constant struggle. After my brief marriage to Amanda's father ended, when he decided family life wasn't for him, I was completely on my own. No child support, no family nearby to help. Just me trying to keep my daughter fed, clothed, and loved. By the time Amanda turned 5, I had managed to move up to the front desk position at a slightly better hotel. The pay increase wasn't substantial, but the hours were more regular, which meant I could be home more with Amanda. I took night classes in business administration whenever I could afford it, one course at a time. During the day, I would study hospitality management from borrowed textbooks during my lunch breaks. When Amanda started school, I took on a second job, bartending, 3 nights a week. A neighbor's teenager would stay with Amanda those evenings. I used the extra money to move us to a better school district and to start putting away a small amount for Amanda's college fund. I was determined my daughter would have the opportunities I never did. As Amanda grew older, I noticed changes in her attitude toward me and our lifestyle. By middle school, she had made friends with children from wealthier families, and I could see her becoming increasingly aware of the differences between our modest life and theirs. When she was 12, she asked me why we couldn't live in a big house like her friend Jenna. "We're doing just fine with what we have," I told her, "and someday we'll have more." "But I want more now," she had replied with that preteen petulance that would only grow stronger over the years. By high school, Amanda was openly embarrassed by me. She didn't want me to come to school events in my waitress uniform, which I often had to wear when rushing from work to see her performances or competitions. She would introduce me to her friends' parents with a quick mumble, then hurry away, as if afraid I might say something that would reveal our working-class status. When Amanda was 16, my years of hard work finally began to pay off. I had worked my way up to management positions, saved aggressively, taken business courses, and built a network in the local hospitality industry. With a small business loan and every penny of my savings, I purchased a struggling 15-room motel. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I renovated it myself on weekends and evenings, transforming it into a charming boutique inn that catered to weekend travelers exploring the Oregon coast. I thought Amanda would be proud of what I'd accomplished, but she barely acknowledged it. When I suggested she might work there after school to learn the business, she looked at me like I'd suggested she clean toilets for fun. "Mom, I'm not going to waste my time working at some tiny motel," she said dismissively. "I have college applications to worry about." I pushed down my hurt and reminded myself that I was working for her future. The small inn was profitable within a year, which allowed me to pay for Amanda's college education without loans. She chose an expensive private university across the country, and while I missed her terribly, I was proud she was pursuing her dreams. During her college years, Amanda's visits home became increasingly rare and brief. When she did visit, she seemed uncomfortable in my house, in my neighborhood, in my life. She would spend most of her time on her phone making plans to meet up with old school friends from wealthier families. The summer after her junior year, Amanda brought home a boyfriend for the first time. Bradley came from old money with the confidence and polish that accompanies generational wealth. He was polite to me, but in that way that suggested he was surprised Amanda had come from such humble beginnings. I prepared a special dinner cooking all afternoon to impress them. I noticed Amanda cringing when I used the wrong fork for my salad, when I mispronounced the name of the expensive wine Bradley had brought when I shared stories about my business challenges. After dinner, I overheard her in the kitchen. "I'm sorry about my mom," she whispered to Bradley. "She works so hard, but she's just never had the opportunity to learn about, the finer things." My heart broke a little, but I stayed silent. I wanted Amanda to be happy, even if it meant she was embarrassed by her own mother. Amanda and Bradley married 2 years after college graduation in a lavish ceremony paid for by his parents. I offered to contribute what I could, but Amanda gently declined. "It's okay, Mom," she said. "The Winstons want to handle everything." At the wedding, I was seated at a table far from the bride and groom, with distant relatives of the Winstons. Bradley's mother made a point of telling the photographer that they wanted family photos, which apparently didn't include me until I spoke up. Amanda looked mortified when I insisted on being in at least a few pictures with my own daughter on her wedding day. The most painful incident came at Amanda's 30th birthday party. Bradley had organized an elegant gathering at their suburban home. When I arrived, Amanda was surrounded by her sophisticated friends. As she introduced me to a group of women I hadn't met before, she said, "This is Patsy, a family friend who's known me forever." A family friend, not her mother, just a family friend. I smiled and played along, not wanting to embarrass her, but inside I was shattered. On the drive home, I cried for the first time in years. All those double shifts, all those sacrifices, all that love, and my daughter was ashamed to call me her mother. That night, I realized something had to change, not just in our relationship, but in me. I had spent so long trying to earn Amanda's approval that I'd neglected to demand her respect. After the birthday party incident, I channeled my hurt into my business. If Amanda couldn't appreciate the mother she had, I would focus on building something I could be proud of myself. My small inn had been doing well, generating steady profits that I had been reinvesting. With my growing business acumen and industry connections, I identified another struggling property in a neighboring coastal town. The 25-room hotel had beautiful bones, but suffered from years of neglect and poor management. I approached the bank for a larger loan armed with a detailed business plan and 5 years of proven success. The loan officer, a man who had initially been skeptical of my first venture, now looked at my proposal with new respect. "Your track record speaks for itself, Ms. Miller," he said, "but this is substantially larger than your current operation. Are you sure you can handle it?" "I started with cleaning toilets and making beds," I replied confidently. "I know every aspect of this business from the ground up, and I've never been afraid of hard work." I secured the loan, though, at a higher interest rate than I'd hoped. Being a woman in business, especially one without formal credentials, meant I still had to fight harder for the same opportunities. But fight I did. The renovation of the second property took 8 months of 7-day weeks. I shuttled between the 2 locations, hiring and training staff, overseeing contractors, and handling marketing. During this time, my calls to Amanda went largely unanswered. When she did pick up, our conversations were brief and superficial. "How's the hotel?" she might ask perfunctorily. "Hotels plural," I would correct her. "They're doing well. I'd love to show you the new property sometime." "Maybe when things slow down," she would reply, though things never seemed to slow down enough for her to visit. With the second hotel thriving, I began to think bigger. I created Miller Hospitality Group as a parent company and started actively looking for additional properties. By the time I was 50, I owned 4 successful boutique hotels along the Pacific Northwest coast. My growing success brought me to the attention of larger players in the industry. At an industry conference in Seattle, I was approached by Gregory Thompson, the CEO of Pacific Luxury Resorts. "I've been watching your expansion with interest," he said over dinner. "You have an eye for undervalued properties and a knack for turning them around. Have you ever considered moving into the luxury market?" I hadn't, mainly because I assumed the capital requirements would be beyond my reach. But Gregory was proposing a partnership that would give me access to investors interested in backing experienced operators. "There's a property I think would be perfect for your first luxury venture," he told me. "A 5-star resort on the California coast called Serenity Cove. The current owners are looking to sell quietly." The opportunity was both thrilling and intimidating. Serenity Cove Resort was the kind of place that catered to celebrities and tech billionaires, with oceanfront villas, a renowned spa, and a Michelin-starred restaurant. It was worlds away from where I'd started. The negotiations were intense and complex. I formed a new entity, Horizon Holdings, to maintain privacy around the acquisition. After 3 months of due diligence and financing arrangements, I became the majority owner of Serenity Cove Resort, with Pacific Luxury Resorts as a minority partner, providing operational support during the transition. Few people knew about my ownership. I preferred to keep it quiet, partly for business reasons, and partly because it felt strange to suddenly be in such a different league. The resort staff knew me only as a representative of the ownership group, not as the principal owner herself. Serenity Cove held special significance for me beyond its business value. Years earlier, when Amanda was in college, I had driven past the resort on a rare weekend off. I had pulled into the circular drive just to peek at the lobby, only to be stopped by a valet who clearly thought I didn't belong there, in my modest car and casual clothes. "The public beach access is half a mile down the road, ma'am," he had said pointedly. I remembered thinking that someday I would stay at a place like Serenity Cove, not as an outsider, but as a welcome guest. Never did I imagine I would one day own it. Throughout my business expansion, I continued to reach out to Amanda. I sent birthday and Christmas gifts, called regularly, and tried to be part of her life. But she remained distant. She never asked about my business growth or showed interest in my achievements. In her mind, I was still just the struggling single mom who embarrassed her in front of her wealthy friends. During one of our rare phone calls, I mentioned I was traveling to California for business. "Oh, what for?" Amanda asked with mild interest. "I'm looking at some property," I said truthfully, though I didn't specify that the property was actually a multi-million-dollar resort I already owned. "That's nice," she replied, before changing the subject to her recent kitchen renovation. I considered telling Amanda about my success many times, but part of me was waiting for her to show genuine interest in my life before I revealed how much it had changed. And another part, I admit, was hurt that she had never believed in me enough to ask. One Thanksgiving at Amanda and Bradley's home, I overheard her talking to a friend in the kitchen. "No, my mom still works in hotels," she said with a slight sigh. "She never really had the opportunity to advance beyond that, but she's happy with her simple life." Her words stung, but they also reinforced my decision to keep my success private for now. Amanda had created a narrative about me that served her need to separate herself from her roots. Until she was ready to see me clearly, sharing my achievements would likely only create more distance between us. So I continued to build my business empire quietly, hoping that someday the right moment would come to bridge the gap between us. I never imagined that moment would arrive through a social media post about a vacation I wasn't invited to join. It was a Tuesday morning in April when I discovered Amanda's vacation plans. I was having my morning coffee and scrolling through Instagram when her post appeared in my feed. "Counting down the days to our exclusive getaway at Serenity Cove. Just 2 weeks until sunspa treatments and 5-star luxury with the best crew ever. I'm blessed #luxury travel. The photo showed Amanda Bradley and several friends I recognized from her social circle posing on a yacht. But it wasn't the image that made my coffee cup freeze halfway to my lips. It was the location tag, Serenity Cove Resort, my resort. My first thought was that this was a perfect opportunity for a surprise reunion. I could arrange for special treatment, perhaps reveal my ownership during their stay, and use the occasion to finally share my success story with my daughter. But as I scrolled through the comments, my heart sank. "Can't wait," wrote Bradley's sister Lauren. "Mom and Dad are so excited for their first visit to Serenity Cove, too. So Bradley's parents were invited." I scrolled further. "This cousin getaway is long overdue," commented someone named Tara. "Bradley's cousins, too." I continued reading the thread, looking for any indication that I might be included in these plans. There was none. I sat back, a hollow feeling spreading in my chest. My own daughter was planning a luxury vacation at my resort and had deliberately excluded me while including her in-laws and extended family. I picked up my phone and called Amanda, trying to keep my voice casual when she answered. "Hi, sweetie, I saw your post about Serenity Cove. It looks wonderful." "Oh, yeah," she replied, sounding immediately guarded. "It's just a little trip Bradley planned." "I'd love to join you," I said directly. "I've never been to a 5-star resort." There was a pause, and I could almost hear her searching for an excuse. "Mom, it's really more of a friends thing," she said finally. "And well, Bradley's parents are coming because they're covering some of the cost as an anniversary gift to us." "I see," I said, my voice tight. "So, it's friends and family, just not your family." "Mom, please don't make this a big deal. It's just that, well, Serenity Cove is very exclusive. The people who stay there are really sophisticated, and I just think you might feel out of place." "Out of place? At my own resort?" "I understand," I said, though I didn't. "Have a wonderful time." After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence for several minutes. Then, with shaking hands, I opened my laptop and logged into the Serenity Cove reservation system. As the owner, I had access to all booking information. I quickly found Amanda's reservation. She had booked 3 ocean view suites for 5 nights, starting the following Friday. The reservation notes included special requests for champagne on arrival, specific spa appointments, and a private dinner on the terrace for their second night, all arranged by Bradley for their exclusive friend group. But what truly shocked me was a note added to the reservation by one of the guest services managers. Guest called 42 to confirm no additional reservations would be added to their party without their approval. Specifically mentioned her mother might try to crash the vacation and should not be accommodated if she calls. I felt physically ill reading those words. Amanda had actually taken steps to prevent me from joining them, going so far as to warn the staff about me potentially trying to crash their vacation. I clicked further into the reservation details and found the record of that call. The manager had made more extensive notes. Guest expressed concern about mother's appropriateness for Serenity Cove environment. States mother is too low class for this type of luxury resort and would embarrass their party. Requested discretion in handling situation if it arises. Too low class. The words burned into my brain. My own daughter, who I had sacrificed everything for, thought I was too low class for a resort that I owned. I closed my laptop and walked to the window of my penthouse office overlooking the Portland skyline. The empire I had built, the success I had achieved, meant nothing if my own child was ashamed of me. For the next hour, I paced my office, cycling through hurt, anger, and disbelief. Part of me wanted to cancel their reservation immediately. Another part wanted to reveal my ownership in the most dramatic way possible. But neither reaction felt right. What I needed was time to think, to process this betrayal, and to decide on a response that would address the real problem, the fundamental lack of respect in our relationship. I picked up the phone and called my assistant. "Janet, clear my schedule for next Friday and the following week," I said, "and book me a villa at Serenity Cove. There's a situation I need to handle personally." That night, I barely slept. My mind kept replaying Amanda's words, "too low class." I thought about all the nights I'd stayed up late helping her with homework after working double shifts, about the birthdays I'd celebrated with homemade cakes because I couldn't afford bakery ones, about the college tuition I'd paid so she wouldn't start adult life with debt. By morning, my hurt had crystallized into something more productive: determination. This situation presented an opportunity to finally address the dysfunction in our relationship. But I needed to be thoughtful about my approach. I called my oldest friend Diane, who had known me since before Amanda was born. Diane had watched me struggle and succeed, and she knew both Amanda and me well. "She said what?" Diane exclaimed when I told her about Amanda's comments to the resort staff. "After everything you've done." "I know." I sighed. What I can't figure out is how to respond. Part of me wants to teach her a lesson she'll never forget. "And you could," Diane pointed out. "You literally own the place. You could have her thrown out humiliated in front of all her fancy friends." The thought had crossed my mind, I admitted. It would be easy to instruct security to escort Amanda and her party off the property. I imagined the shock on her face, the embarrassment in front of the in-laws she was so eager to impress. "But that's not really what you want, is it?" Diane asked gently. "No," I admitted. "What I want is for my daughter to see me. Really see me, not just the version of me she's created in her mind, and I want her to understand how deeply her rejection hurts." "Then maybe this is the perfect opportunity for that conversation," Diane suggested. "Not revenge, but truth." Over the next few days, I carefully considered my options. I didn't want to humiliate Amanda, but I also couldn't let this behavior continue unchallenged. Eventually, I formulated a plan that felt both respectful and firm. I called Marcus, the general manager of Serenity Cove, who was one of the few people who knew I was the principal owner. "Marcus, I have a delicate situation," I explained before detailing the circumstances with Amanda. "My daughter and her party will be arriving this Friday. I'll be arriving the day before, but I'd like to remain anonymous initially." "Of course, Ms. Miller. How would you like us to handle their stay?" "Let them check in normally and enjoy their first day. On Saturday morning, I'd like security to approach my daughter politely and inform her that the owner has requested she check out and leave the property. And if she asks why, tell her the owner would prefer to explain personally, then offer to connect her with me by phone." "Should we prepare alternate accommodations?" "Yes. Please arrange rooms at the Palms in town. It's a perfectly lovely 4-star hotel. Have their belongings transferred there and their stay fully comped." "Understood. And the rest of their party?" I paused, considering. "They're welcome to stay at Serenity Cove if they wish. This is between my daughter and me." After finalizing the arrangements with Marcus, I called Janet to prepare for my absence from headquarters. As CEO of a company with multiple properties, I rarely took personal time, but this was important. "Everything's arranged," Janet confirmed. "Your villa at Serenity Cove is booked under your usual pseudonym, and your flight leaves Thursday morning." "Thank you," I said. "And Janet, no calls from the office while I'm gone unless it's a genuine emergency. I need to focus on this situation with Amanda." The night before my flight, I lay awake again questioning my decision. Was I being too harsh? Would this permanently damage our already fragile relationship? But then I remembered the cavalier way Amanda had dismissed me, the years of subtle and not so subtle rejection, and I knew something had to change. I arrived at Serenity Cove on Thursday afternoon. My private villa was set apart from the main resort buildings, offering both luxury and discretion. Marcus greeted me personally, escorting me through the back entrance to avoid the main lobby. "Everything is prepared according to your instructions, Ms. Miller," he assured me. Security has been briefed, and the alternative accommodations are confirmed. And my daughter's reservation? Their party is scheduled to arrive tomorrow at 2 p.m., 3 ocean view suites, 8 guests total. I nodded, a knot forming in my stomach. Thank you, Marcus. I'd like access to the security feed for the main entrance and pool area during their stay. Of course. I'll have it set that up on your villa's system immediately. That night, I sat on my private terrace overlooking the ocean, questioning my plan again. Was I making a terrible mistake? But every time doubt crept in, I reminded myself that this wasn't about punishment. It was about finally establishing boundaries and truth in our relationship. The next day, I watched on the security monitor as Amanda's party arrived in 2 luxury SUVs. Amanda stepped out first, wearing designer sunglasses and a flowing white cover-up over what I assumed was a swimsuit. Bradley followed, then his parents and several other couples. From the moment she entered the lobby, I could see Amanda was in her element, confidently approaching the front desk, as if she belonged in this world of wealth and privilege. If only she knew that her mother, the woman she considered too low class for this environment, was the one who had created it. I watched as they were checked in efficiently, their luggage whisked away by attentive staff. I observed Amanda examining the lobby, critically nodding with approval at the elegant furnishings that I had personally selected during the resort's latest renovation. As they were escorted to their suites, I felt a strange mixture of pride and sadness. Pride in what I had built, and sadness that my own daughter couldn't see me clearly enough to share in that pride. That evening, Amanda posted several photos from the resort, her ocean view suite Bradley, toasting with champagne on their private balcony, the sunset over the infinity pool. The caption read, "First night in paradise with my favorite people. This place is even more exclusive and gorgeous than we imagined. Blessed. Her favorite people." A group that apparently didn't include her mother. I went to bed that night with a heavy heart, but a clear conscience. Tomorrow would be difficult, but necessary. Saturday morning dawned clear and beautiful at Serenity Cove. From my security feed, I watched Amanda and her party gather at the main pool after breakfast. They claimed a row of premium loungers, ordered drinks, and settled in for a day of luxury relaxation. Amanda looked happy as she stretched out on a lounger in her designer swimsuit, large sunglasses perched on her nose, a colorful cocktail in hand. Bradley's mother sat beside her, the 2 women chatting animatedly. I noticed how Amanda leaned toward her mother-in-law, eager to connect, while my own calls often went to voicemail. At precisely 11 a.m., as instructed, 2 members of the resort security team approached their group. Even through the security feed, I could see the confusion on Amanda's face as the uniformed staff members spoke to her. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could imagine it. "Mrs. Winston. I'm Thomas from Resort Security. Could we speak with you privately for a moment?" Amanda looking around nervously. "Is something wrong?" "Ma'am, I regret to inform you that the owner of Serenity Cove has requested that you check out and leave the property. We've arranged alternative accommodation for you nearby." I watched Amanda's body language change from relaxed to rigid with shock. She stood up abruptly, gesturing with her hands in what appeared to be protest. Bradley joined her, putting his arm around her shoulders protectively as he confronted the security staff. More words were exchanged. Bradley's parents joined the conversation, looking concerned and confused. Friends started gathering their belongings, the perfect pool day disrupted. One of the security officers handed Amanda a phone. My phone was ringing seconds later. I took a deep breath and answered. "Hello? Mom?" Amanda's voice was shrill with disbelief. "What is going on? These people say the owner wants me to leave the resort. There must be some mistake." "There's no mistake, Amanda," I said calmly. "I am the owner of Serenity Cove Resort." There was complete silence on the other end. "What?" she finally managed. What are you talking about? Serenity Cove is part of my hospitality group. I've owned it for 3 years now. That's impossible, she stammered. You run a small inn or something. You've never even been to a place like this. Actually, I own several places like this, I corrected her. Miller Hospitality Group owns 11 properties, now including 4 luxury resorts. Serenity Cove is our flagship. I don't understand, Amanda said, her voice small. Why didn't you tell me? When would I have told you, Amanda? During one of the many times you've asked about my life and business. During those family dinners you've invited me to, or perhaps when you were explaining to the staff here that I was too low class for this environment. Her sharp intake of breath told me she understood. You know about that, she whispered. I know everything that happens at my properties, I said evenly, including when my daughter makes a reservation and specifically instructs the staff not to allow her mother to join her vacation. Amanda was silent again, and I could imagine her mind racing, recalibrating everything she thought she knew about me. Mom, I can explain. I'm sure you can, I interrupted, and I'd like to hear that explanation, but not here, not now. I've arranged accommodation for you at the Palms in town. It's a lovely hotel. Your belongings are being transferred there as we speak. You're really throwing me out in front of everyone. Her voice cracked with humiliation. I'm asking you to leave privately and with dignity, I corrected her. Your friends and Bradley's family are welcome to stay if they wish. This is between you and me. But, Amanda, for years, I've let you dictate the terms of our relationship. I've accepted being kept at arm's length, being introduced as a family friend, being excluded from your life. But I won't accept being actively disrespected, especially not at my own resort. I heard muffled conversation on her end, then Bradley's voice in the background asking what was happening. I need to go, Amanda said suddenly. We'll talk later. She hung up, and I watched on the monitor as she spoke to Bradley and the others, gesturing animatedly. I couldn't hear her, but I could see the shock on their faces. Bradley's mother put her hand over her mouth in surprise. The security staff stood by, patiently, professionally discreet, as the scene unfolded. After a few minutes, Amanda nodded resignedly. The group gathered their pool belongings and followed the security team inside, presumably to collect their things from their rooms. An hour later, I received confirmation from Marcus that Amanda and Bradley had checked out and been escorted to the Palms. The rest of their party had chosen to leave as well, showing solidarity. Now came the hardest part, waiting. I had made my move. The next step was Amanda's. My phone remained silent all afternoon. I tried to distract myself by working remotely reviewing reports from my other properties, but my mind kept returning to Amanda. Had I gone too far? Had I irrevocably damaged our relationship in my attempt to save it? At 7 p.m., my phone finally rang. It was Amanda. I'd like to see you, she said without preamble, her voice tight with controlled emotion. I'd like that too, I replied softly. Not at the resort, she added quickly. Somewhere neutral. There's a small restaurant in town called Harbor View, I suggested. Private tables, good food, 8 o'clock. Fine, she agreed curtly, then hung up. I arrived at Harbor View 15 minutes early, requesting a quiet table at the back. The restaurant was elegant but unpretentious, with large windows overlooking the marina. As I waited, I watched boats gently bobbing on the water and tried to calm my racing heart. Amanda arrived precisely at 8 UN. She had changed from her pool attire into a simple black dress, her face carefully composed. Only the redness around her eyes suggested she'd been crying. She sat across from me silently, her gaze direct and challenging. Thank you for coming, I began. Did I have a choice? She asked, a slight tremor in her voice, betraying her emotion. You publicly humiliated me in front of my husband, his family, and our friends. That wasn't my intention, I said truthfully. I asked security to approach you discreetly. Well, there's nothing discreet about being escorted out of a five-star resort, she retorted. Bradley's parents are mortified. Everyone is talking about it. My own mother had me thrown out of a hotel. Your own mother, who you told resort staff was too low class to join your vacation, I reminded her gently. Amanda had the grace to look ashamed. I shouldn't have said that, she admitted, but you shouldn't have been looking at my reservation details. Amanda, I own the resort. All reservation details cross my desk eventually, especially VIP bookings. But that's beside the point. What hurt wasn't just what you said to the staff. It was that you deliberately excluded me from a family vacation while including Bradley's entire family. She looked down at her hands. I didn't think you'd enjoy it. It's not really your scene. My scene, I echoed. Amanda, I literally created the scene at Serenity Cove. Everything from the interior design to the menu at the restaurant was approved by me. She looked up, confusion evident in her expression. But how, when you never said anything about owning resorts or any of this? Because you never asked, I said simply. When was the last time you asked me about my work, my life, my dreams? You decided years ago who I was, a simple working-class mom who could never fit into your sophisticated world. You never bothered to discover who I actually became. The waiter approached and we paused to order drinks. When he left, Amanda looked at me with new eyes. Tell me now, she said quietly. Tell me everything. And so I did. I told her about buying my first small inn, about expanding gradually, about taking the risk on Serenity Cove. I explained about Horizon Holdings and why I kept my ownership private. I described my offices in Portland, my executive team, my plans for future acquisitions. As I spoke, I watched wonder and dismay battle for dominance in her expression. All this time, she whispered when I finished, all this time you were building this amazing business, and I had no idea. You never seemed interested, I said, trying to keep the hurt from my voice. And after a while, I stopped trying to share that part of my life with you. I thought, she began, then stopped, shaking her head. I guess I thought you were still cleaning rooms or working the front desk somewhere. I thought you were struggling, and I didn't want to. Didn't want to what? I prompted when she trailed off. Be reminded of where I came from, she admitted in a small voice. It was easier to keep you separate from my new life. And then it became a habit, and then it became cruel, I finished for her. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I'm so ashamed, she whispered. Not of you, of me. I've been horrible to you, haven't I? You've been distant, I acknowledged, and sometimes dismissive. But I think we both played a part in this. I allowed it to continue. I should have demanded more respect long ago. Our drinks arrived, and we both used the interruption to compose ourselves. What happens now? Amanda asked after the waiter left. That depends on you, I replied honestly. I'd like a real relationship with my daughter, one based on mutual respect and genuine interest in each other's lives. I'd like that too, she said, surprising me with her sincerity. But after today, Bradley's parents are so confused and upset. And my friends. Are your friends and in-laws more important than repairing our relationship? I asked quietly. Amanda considered this for a long moment. No, she finally said. No, they're not. But I need to explain things to them. That seems reasonable. I agreed. What will you tell them? The truth, she said, meeting my gaze directly. That my mother is an incredibly successful businesswoman who finally got tired of being treated like an embarrassing secret. That I've been blind and ungrateful, and I'm trying to make amends. Her words touched me deeply. That's a good start, I said with a small smile. Mom, Amanda said hesitantly, would you? Would you come back to the Palms with me to meet with everyone I'd like to introduce you properly, as my mother, and as the owner of Serenity Cove? It was the first genuine invitation I'd received from my daughter in years. I'd be honored, I said. We finished our drinks and walked to her hotel together. As we entered the lobby, Amanda took my hand, something she hadn't done since she was a child. It felt like the first small step on a long road back to each other. Bradley and the others were gathered in the hotel restaurant talking in low voices that ceased abruptly when they saw us approach. "Everyone," Amanda said, her voice stronger than I expected. "This is my mother, Patricia Miller. She owns Serenity Cove Resort, and I owe her an apology for not telling you all that sooner." 6 months after the Serenity Cove incident, Amanda and I sat on the terrace of my Portland penthouse, sharing a bottle of wine as the sun set over the city. These Sunday evening get-togethers had become our new tradition, a time to reconnect and rebuild our relationship. "The marketing team loved your idea for the new campaign," Amanda said, scrolling through photos on her tablet. "They're already working on the layouts." 3 months earlier, Amanda had asked if she could join Miller Hospitality Group in a marketing role. Initially, I was hesitant, worried that working together might strain our fragile new relationship. But Amanda had been persistent. "I want to learn the business from the ground up," she had insisted. "I've spent years underestimating you and what you've built. I don't want to make that mistake anymore." So far, it was working better than I had dared hope. Amanda had a natural talent for marketing and brought fresh ideas to the company. More importantly, she approached the work with humility and a genuine desire to learn. "You've really impressed Janelle," I told her, referring to our marketing director. "She told me yesterday that your social media strategy for the Lake Tahoe property increased bookings by 15%. Amanda smiled, pleased, but not smug. It was a subtle change I'd noticed in her over these past months, a new groundedness, a lessened need for external validation. "I had a good teacher," she said, raising her glass to me. "Several good teachers, actually. The team has been incredibly supportive." We sipped our wine in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city lights begin to twinkle in the gathering dusk. "Bradley's parents asked about you," Amanda said eventually. "They're planning their anniversary trip and wanted your recommendation for one of your properties." This, too, was new and welcome. After the initial shock and awkwardness at the Palms that day, Amanda had gradually repaired her relationships with Bradley's family and their friends. But this time, she did it while proudly acknowledging me as her mother. The first step had been inviting everyone back to Serenity Cove as my guests a week after the incident. I had given them a personal tour of the resort, sharing stories about its acquisition and renovation. Bradley's father, a real estate investor himself, had been particularly impressed and peppered me with questions about my business strategy. "I still can't believe you're the Patricia Miller who outbid Westmont Group for the Santa Barbara property," he had said with newfound respect. "That was a masterful deal." Amanda had watched these interactions with a mixture of pride and regret. Pride in my accomplishments, and regret for having kept me separate from this part of her life for so long. "Tell the Winstons I'd recommend our Sedona property in October," I replied now. "The weather is perfect and the new spa director there is exceptional." "I'll let them know." Amanda nodded. "They also mentioned having us all over for dinner next Sunday." "I'd like that," I said sincerely. Our healing process hadn't been without setbacks. We'd had arguments, moments of retreating to old patterns, times when old hurts resurfaced unexpectedly. 3 months after Serenity Cove, we had begun seeing a family therapist together, which helped us navigate the complex emotions and ingrained behaviors that had damaged our relationship for so long. "Do you remember what Dr. Levine said in our session last week?" Amanda asked, seeming to follow my train of thought. "About how unacknowledged expectations create resentment." I nodded. "I've been thinking about that a lot. For years, I expected you to appreciate all the sacrifices I made without ever telling you directly what I needed from you. And I expected you to conform to the image I wanted to project without considering your feelings or your journey," Amanda added. "We were both living in our heads instead of actually talking to each other." "Well, we're talking now," I said, reaching over to squeeze her hand. "That's what matters." Amanda's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it and smiled. "Bradley wants to know if he should pick up dinner on his way over. Tell him yes, and to bring enough for Janet, too. She's dropping off those contracts I need to review before tomorrow." This, too, was new, the casual blending of our personal and professional lives, the easy inclusion of each other in everyday plans. Last month, Amanda had hosted a dinner party and proudly introduced me to several new friends as my mother who built a hospitality empire from scratch. The pride in her voice had brought tears to my eyes. "Mom," Amanda said now, setting down her phone, "there's something I've been wanting to ask you." "What's that?" "Would you consider writing a memoir about your journey from cleaning hotel rooms to owning them? I think your story could inspire so many women." "I've actually been approached by a few publishers," I admitted. "But I wasn't sure." "You should do it," Amanda urged. "And not just the business parts, the personal parts, too, including the hard stuff between us." I looked at her in surprise. "You'd be comfortable with that?" She nodded slowly. "I think it's important. For years, I was ashamed of our working-class background, of your struggle. Now I understand that those experiences shaped you into the remarkable woman you are. And my behavior, well, maybe sharing that could help other families avoid our mistakes." I felt a rush of emotion at her words. This was growth. I had never expected my daughter not only accepting our past, but wanting to honor it. "I'll think about it," I promised. As the evening darkened around us, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. The hurt and rejection had been real and painful. But so was the healing and reconnection we were experiencing now. I had learned that true success wasn't measured in properties acquired or profits earned. It was measured in honest conversations, in boundaries respectfully maintained in relationships built on mutual understanding rather than unspoken expectations. And Amanda had learned that genuine connections require seeing people as they truly are, not as supporting characters in the narrative we create about ourselves. "I'm proud of you," I told her spontaneously, "not just for your work with the company, but for your willingness to look honestly at yourself and our relationship. That takes real courage." "I had a good example," she replied softly. "A mother who never gave up on me, even when I gave her every reason to." As we sat together in the gathering darkness, I felt a peace I hadn't known in decades. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but for the first time in years, I believed my daughter and I were truly seeing each other. The greatest luxury in life isn't staying at a 5-star resort. It's being known, respected, and loved for who you really are. After all these years, Amanda and I were finally giving each other that gift. I wonder, have you ever had to stand up for yourself with a family member who took you for granted? How did you handle it? If you found value in our journey, please hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most beautiful reconciliations. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find the courage to speak your truth with love.